Hey there, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at EdTech in 2024, specifically through CTL and their Chromebooks. We've got all their marketing stuff, and it's really interesting. They're laser focused on K through 12. Like they zeroed in on exactly what schools are struggling with
Right.
and designed their products to tackle those needs.
Yeah, you're right. I'm looking at this stuff too. And it's way more than just selling laptops. They're like partners with schools, almost like they're anticipating the problems and they have the solutions ready to go.
So you're saying it's not just about specs
Uh,
and, marketing hype.
oh, for sure not. But, one spec that did catch my eye, the new Chromebook PX series. You can drop those things from 75 centimeters, almost 30 inches, like falling off a desk, which, let's be honest, happens all the time in a classroom.
Yeah, my old school laptop would have been toast. So they're going for that indestructible kind of thing. Is that because schools are demanding it, or is it just good marketing?
It's both, really. Schools definitely want tougher devices, especially now with how much they rely on tech in the classroom. Can't have learning stop because of a broken laptop, right?
Makes sense. But it's funny, CTL also has that NL7T360, which they say is rugged too. But it can only handle a 45 centimeter drop. I mean, has rugged changed that much in a few years?
Good point. What we're seeing is how the definition of rugged is changing. A few years back, a strong hinge was a big deal. Now parents and schools, they want military-grade drop tests and spill-proof designs. It's almost like the classroom is this crazy environment, and it's pushing companies to make devices that can actually survive it.
Survival of the fittest for Chromebooks, huh? Which makes me think about something else. CTL mentions a huge performance jump. With the PX111E, they're saying 179% increase. I mean, does that even matter for, writing essays and doing research online?
It might seem like too much. But educational software is getting more demanding. Think about virtual labs, video editing, big online projects. That stuff needs a lot of power. A slow laptop is super frustrating, especially for students trying to keep up. If they're already having trouble with the material, it just makes it worse.
Yeah, I guess in that context, 179% makes more sense. Okay, let's talk connectivity. CTL is really pushing their Wi-Fi 6 and 6E stuff, even mentioning Bluetooth 5.3. Are these just buzzwords? Or do they matter in a crowded classroom?
Definitely not just buzzwords. Think about it. 30 kids in a classroom, all online at the same time. Older Wi-Fi can't handle that. Wi-Fi 6 and 6E are way faster, and they work better in those crowded situations. Bluetooth 5.3 is about saving power and making sure things like headphones and mice stay connected.
So it's not just being online, it's being online reliably.
Exactly. And with schools using so many cloud platforms and digital stuff, a good, strong connection is super important.
It's really interesting how CTL is hitting on these specific challenges. And speaking of challenges, they included this interview with their CEO, Eric Stromquist. He talks about their plan for affordable, built-in 5G in Chromebooks. They're going all in on this, huh?
Yeah, and it's a big move. Remember during the pandemic, everyone needed hotspots. Imagine if every student just had 5G on their device. It could be huge for closing the digital divide, making sure everyone can learn online, no matter what their home situation is like.
That's a powerful idea, especially if it actually works. It's like CTL is trying to make education future-proof, solving problems before they even happen, not just selling Chromebooks, but peace of mind.
That's a good way to put it. They're thinking about the real stuff: durability, connectivity, digital equity.
But what about the money part? School budgets are always tight. How does CTL address that?
Well, they have a few ways. One is their Chrome as a Service rental model. Schools can lease devices for a certain time.
Okay, I'm not sure I follow. How did that work for a school, and what are the good and bad parts?
Think of it like a software subscription. Instead of buying the Chromebooks outright, they pay a monthly fee per device. It spreads the cost out, makes budgeting easier. Plus, schools can always have the latest tech because they can upgrade at the end of the lease. But some people say it might be more expensive in the long run, and that schools are just renting something they'll never own.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like leasing a car versus buying one. You get flexibility. But maybe higher long-term costs?
Exactly. Each school district has to decide what works for their needs and budget. But it's interesting that CTL offers this option, along with just buying the devices. It shows they're thinking about different ways schools buy tech.
So we've covered durability, performance, cost, even future-proofing with 5G. But there's this big topic everyone's thinking about: sustainability. Does CTL talk about that in their materials?
They do, and they cover it pretty thoroughly. Stromquist talks about e-waste in the interview, and he highlights what CTL is doing to be more sustainable.
Like what are they doing to be eco-friendly?
A few things. First, they use responsibly sourced parts, and they include recycled plastics in the devices so they don't need as many brand new materials, and it helps reduce waste.
Okay, so they're thinking about the materials, but what about when the devices are old?
That's where the right to repair comes in. They have buyback programs. Schools can trade in old devices, which means less e-waste and maybe even lower costs for the schools. They're also making it easier to repair devices in-house by providing parts and repair guides.
That's a big change. I remember when a broken school laptop was basically trash.
Right, and CTL is doing it differently. They're acknowledging that these devices have a lifespan and that making them last longer is important for sustainability.
It's like a circular economy for Chromebooks. Reuse, repair, recycle responsibly.
It's a fresh perspective, especially compared to some bigger Chromebook companies who make it a pain to repair their stuff.
So CTL is walking the walk on sustainability, not just talking about it.
They definitely are, and I think a lot of schools and parents will appreciate that.
Absolutely. They're thinking about the whole life cycle and the environmental impact.
And that's an important message to send, especially in education. We're trying to teach kids to be responsible for the planet.
We've covered a lot. Durability, performance, cost, sustainability, even the potential of 5G to change education. It's clear CTL is taking a wide approach, thinking about the needs of schools and students. But there's one more piece we haven't talked about, equity. What's CTL's take on that?
Great question. CTL addresses that in a pretty unique way. They have something called the parent-funded model. It's designed to deal with the digital divide inside classrooms.
Parent-funded model. Okay, now I'm interested, but a little confused. How does that work?
It's pretty simple, actually. CTL lets parents buy the same Chromebook model that the school is using for their own child. That way, every student in the class has the same device, no matter how much money their family has.
So it's like creating a level playing field within the classroom itself. That's a clever way to address the digital divide at a smaller scale. But does it really solve the bigger problem of access and affordability?
It's not a perfect solution, but it's a step in the right direction. It takes care of that Chromebook envy problem, and it makes sure every student has the same learning opportunities, at least in the classroom. Of course, the bigger issue of digital equity needs a much wider approach. Government funding, better internet infrastructure, and community programs.
Right. It's a complicated problem, but it's good to see CTL thinking about it.
Yeah.
And trying to come up with solutions makes you wonder what else they're working on.
Well, they have this whole new line of Chromebooks, the Chromebook Plus series. They're saying it's more than just a Chromebook, highlighting things like AI tools and better cybersecurity.
Do more.
Yes.
Create more.
Yeah.
That's their tagline for the Plus. It sounds like they're going after those higher-end laptops. Are they really that powerful?
They've got a lot of power, for sure. Especially the PX141G series, double the processing speed and memory compared to their regular Chromebooks. So things load faster, multitasking is smoother, and they can handle more demanding apps. Plus, they're talking about integration with Google Workspace and Microsoft 365. Smart move.
Yeah. Because schools use both. That flexibility is definitely a plus. But what about those AI tools? Are they just hype? Or do they actually help in education?
I think they have real potential, especially for personalized learning. Imagine a student with writer's block. AI tools like Help Me Write can help them come up with ideas, fix grammar, even try different writing styles. It's not about replacing teachers, it's about giving students more support and tools to help them learn better.
That makes sense, like having a writing tutor whenever you need one. And they also mention AI-powered video calling. Could be great for remote learning.
Definitely. Students in noisy places or with bad internet. AI can filter out the noise, make the video better, and make it a more inclusive experience. It's about taking away those barriers to learning, no matter where a student is or what their situation is.
Seems like they're really thinking about different kinds of learners, but all those features are useless if the device itself breaks. Did they talk about durability for the Chromebook Plus series?
They do, and it seems like they learned from those ruggedized models. They talk about MIL STD 810H testing, drop resistance from 75 centimeters, and even toughened glass for the touchscreen versions.
So even if a student drops their Chromebook Plus, they can just pick it up, dust it off, and keep going. That's good news for IT departments. And school budgets.
Speaking of budgets, CTL offers the same lifecycle management services for the Chromebook Plus line. Everything from planning and deployment to warranty and service plans to trade-ins and recycling.
It's like they're saying, we're not just selling you a gadget, we're your partner in managing all your tech.
Precisely, and that's a valuable thing for schools, especially those without much IT staff or resources, having a partner to help them through everything. from buying to getting rid of devices can make a big difference.
So far, we've seen how CTL handles the practical stuff: durability, performance, cost. But they're also thinking about the big picture: sustainability and equity. It's impressive how they include those ideas in their products and overall approach.
It's a big picture approach, and it makes sense. People are more aware of how technology affects society and the environment. They want to support companies that care about those things too.
That's true. It's not just about profits anymore. It's about doing the right thing for people and the planet.
Exactly. And CTL seems to get that, for example. They're really trying to use responsible parts and recycled plastics in their devices.
We talked about that with their regular Chromebooks. But are they doing the same for the Chromebook Plus line?
Looks like it. They're still promoting their buyback program, which helps reduce e-waste and maybe even saves schools money. They're also still committed to the right to repair, making it easier for schools to fix devices themselves, providing parts and repair guides.
That's good to hear. They're consistent with their sustainability approach, no matter the product.
Mm.
But they also mentioned something called a shim request on their website. What is that?
That's interesting. From what I understand, a shim request lets certified repair people replace motherboards and change serial numbers on their Chromebooks, basically. It gives schools more control over repairs.
So instead of sending a broken device back to the company, schools could potentially fix it themselves. That would be huge for keeping devices working and making them last longer.
Exactly. And it shows CTL is serious about letting schools manage their own technology. It's another example of them moving away from that old model of just selling devices and toward more of a partnership.
So, whether it's the rugged Chromebooks built for the classroom or the powerful Chromebook Plus line with AI and better security, CTL seems to have a Chromebook for every student and budget. But more importantly, they're backing it up with a whole range of services and a commitment to sustainability and equity.
It's a compelling package, and it really sets them apart from other edtech companies. They're not just selling devices, they're selling a vision for the future of education, one where technology is easy to get, affordable, and sustainable.
Speaking of the future of education, let's go back to that idea of 5G revolutionizing things. CTL is really into this. Why do you think that is?
Sure, they see a future where every Chromebook has 5G built in, basically, making them into little mobile hotspots. It's a bold idea, but it could really change things for educational equity.
Imagine everyone, no matter where they live or their background, having fast internet. It could really even things out and open up so many possibilities for learning and collaborating online.
Exactly. But like with any new technology, there are challenges. Cost is a big one. Adding 5G to a device is expensive right now. CTL is talking about using new 5G tech like RedCap, which is supposed to be cheaper. But even then, there's the issue of data plans and infrastructure.
Not every school district can afford unlimited data for everyone. And in some places, 5G coverage is still patchy, so the idea is exciting, but we have to be realistic about the hurdles.
You're right, it's not going to magically solve the digital divide overnight, but it's a trend to keep an eye on as prices drop and the infrastructure gets better. 5G could really change the game for educational equity.
It's like we're at the beginning of a new era in EdTech. CTL seems to be leading the way. It'll be interesting to see what happens with their vision.
Definitely. And as we finish this part of our deep dive, it's good to think about the main points. We've seen how CTL is tackling the challenges of EdTech with a thoughtful, comprehensive approach. They're not just selling devices, they're offering solutions that work for schools, teachers, students, and the planet.
They're thinking about durability, performance, affordability, sustainability, equity, and how emerging technologies like 5G can transform learning. It's a big picture vision, and it's worth paying attention to.
Well said. And as we move into the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore some of the wider implications of these trends for the future of education. What does this all mean for you, the listener? How do these trends affect your own learning or work?
Those are great questions to think about as we continue our look at CTL and the ever-changing world of EdTech. So we've been talking about all of these advancements in EdTech, durable Chromebooks, AI tools, the potential of 5G. It feels like we're on the verge of something big. But I also wonder, does all of this actually translate to better learning? I mean, at the end of the day, isn't that the goal?
That's the big question, right? And it's complicated. Technology is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used well or not so well. Just having the latest Chromebook doesn't automatically make a student learn better.
Right. It's not magic. So what's the key then? How do we make sure all this tech actually helps students learn?
I think a few things are important. First, we need to focus on how we teach, how we integrate technology into the curriculum, not just adding it on as an afterthought. Second, we need to help teachers, give them the skills and confidence to use technology well in their classrooms.
So it's not just about the hardware, it's about the human side. Teachers need to know how to use these tools to make learning better, not just replace the old ways of teaching.
Exactly. And third, we have to think about equity. Technology can help make things fairer, but only if everyone can access it. We have to address the digital divide and make sure every student has a chance to benefit.
Sounds like a challenge with many parts. One that needs educators, policymakers, tech companies, even parents to work together.
Absolutely. It's everyone's responsibility. And it's not just about having devices. It's about creating a culture where people understand digital stuff and can think critically so students can use technology responsibly and ethically.
CTL seems to be taking that approach, at least from what we've seen. But what about the other big companies? Google, Microsoft, Apple? Are they thinking the same way?
Kinda, yeah. They're all investing a lot in edtech and talking about similar things: personalized learning, collaboration, accessibility. But they do things differently.
Like what? What makes CTL stand out?
One thing I noticed, CTL really focuses on partnerships. They want to be partners with schools, not just sellers. Their lifecycle management services, their commitment to the right to repair, their focus on affordability. It all shows they care about schools and students succeeding in the long run.
It's interesting. It's almost like they're trying to create a community around their products,
Right.
a network of educators and schools, all working together to use technology well.
Exactly. And that's powerful, especially in education, where working together and learning from each other is so important.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm feeling cautiously optimistic. Technology has so much potential to improve education, but it's going to take time. We need to change how we think, commit to keep learning, and work together.
I agree. And I think CTL's approach shows us what that future could be like. A future where technology is a natural part of learning, where teachers can use these tools in creative and effective ways, and where every student has the chance to succeed in a world that's all connected digitally.
It's an inspiring vision, one that I think we can all get behind. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you've learned something new and are feeling excited to think about the possibilities of technology in education.
And if you want to learn more, check out CTL's website. They have tons of information on everything from device specs to funding models to their sustainability work. We'll put a link in the show notes.
And as always, we want to hear from you. What are your hopes and worries about the future of EdTech? Share your thoughts on our website or social media. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep pushing the limits of what's possible.
It's definitely a dynamic field, and technology is only going to become more important in education.
Speaking of shaping the future, let's go back to CTL and their 5G vision. They're really pushing this idea of every Chromebook having 5G built in, turning them into little hotspots. It's a bold vision, but is it realistic?
Well, as we talked about, there are some hurdles. Cost is a big one. Even with things like RedCap making it cheaper, giving every student 5G will still cost a lot. Schools and governments would have to invest a lot. Then there's the infrastructure issue. 5G networks are still being built. And not everyone has good coverage, especially in rural areas.
It's a great vision, but there are real-world challenges, and it's not as easy as just adding a 5G chip to every Chromebook.
Right. But technology usually advances in steps. We probably won't see 5G in every school tomorrow, but it's something to watch. As costs come down and coverage gets better, 5G could be a game changer for giving everyone equal access to education.
It's like we're on the edge of a new era in EdTech. CTL seems to be out in front. It'll be interesting to see how their vision plays out.
Definitely. So, to wrap up our deep dive, let's think about what we've learned. We've seen how CTL is tackling the tough parts of EdTech. They're taking a comprehensive and thoughtful approach. It's not just about selling devices, it's about providing solutions. Solutions that work for schools, teachers, students, and even the environment.
They're thinking about the whole picture: durability, performance, affordability, sustainability, equity, and how new tech like 5G can change learning. It's a big picture vision, and it's worth paying attention to.
Well said. And now, for you listening, what does all this mean for you? How do these trends affect your own learning or work?
Those are great questions to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into CTL and the world of EdTech. We hope you learned something new and that you're excited about the possibilities.
If you're interested in learning more, you can check out CTL's website. They have tons of resources on everything from device specs to sustainability. We'll put the link in the show notes.
And as always, we love hearing from you. What are you hoping for or worried about when it comes to the future of educational technology? Share your thoughts with us on our website or social media. Until next time, keep learning, exploring, and pushing the boundaries.